welcome to the Album Man, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here, the Experience Edition. And this is not a review of the album of Wish You Were Here. This is simply a review of the 2011 Experience Edition, and really whether this version or even the Discovery, remaster of it is worth buying. And so this was released on the 7th of November 2011, and I'm sure as everyone knows this was remastered by James Guthrie, the same person who remastered the rest of the 2011 remasters, surprisingly. And yes, so we'll start briefly by talking about the packaging, and there should be an unboxing coming on the screen now. So while you watch the unboxing, I'll talk a bit about the packaging. The packaging, the outer packaging, it's very, very glossy, like the other Experience Editions, and it means that it's very easy to smother fingerprints on it, which I don't like. I prefer a bit of a more matte finish to my sleeves, because, it looks quite grimy and horrible already, and I've barely had it. And, I mean, the packaging, again, it's pretty flimsy, like the rest of the Experience Editions. Overall, it's not the best. The pictures inside are reused over and over again, to the point of boredom, however good and iconic they may be. And, I mean, I do like the slip cover, which is just like the original vinyl slip cover that concealed the, iconic and famous artwork. I do like that feature quite a bit, but overall not the best. So we'll get into the Disc One first, and this is mainly going to be a comparison between this and the 1994 remaster, as I also have that version of the album, and I'm not going to be comparing this to the vinyl, which I do own a vinyl copy of this, but for the purposes of this review, it's really just the compact disc versions I'll be comparing. And really, the differences between them for Disc One, which is simply just the album, is very subtle, to say the least. I found the 2011 version to be a tad bit louder than 94, but the thing I found the biggest was how to find the basses on the 2011. It definitely picks up a stronger bass line, and this definitely comes into fruition with something like the title track, Wish You Were Here. And overall, the instrumentation and vocals have a little bit of added clarity, but really it's nothing you'd notice on a casual listen, or even if you're trying without a direct comparison, it's not something I'd notice. It's not a dramatic difference whatsoever. I mean, if you are wanting to get a copy of Wish You Were Here without the extras, just a, basic copy of it for your collection, really the 94 version is cheaper than Discovery, and it's, the difference is so minute, it's probably better to go for that, to be honest. But the thing about the Experience Edition, though, it's for the bigger Pink Floyd fans. And, those who already have the album and they're possibly interested in upgrading and certainly can't afford the 80 quid or whatever the Immersion Edition is, well, this is where we're going to take a look at Disc 2 of this edition, and the track listing for that is Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Raving and Drooling, You've Got To Be Crazy, and all of these three are from Live at Wembley, from Live at Wembley in 1974. Then track 4 we have Wine Glasses from the Household Objects project. Then we have a Cigar, an alternate version. And then we have finally Wish You Were Here with Stephane and Grappelli. So, first we'll talk about the version of Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and this is live, as I said before, and this is a particular interest to me. It's one of my favourite Pink Floyd songs, and I was really interested to hear a live version of parts 1 to 6. And I think it sounds very good, from the ambient keyboards of Rick Wright to the classic opening notes of Gilmour and the driving bass and beats by Waters and Mason, and the vocals are really clear as well. It's a well-recorded live track, and it's a fantastic thing. I mean, I have heard some complain. I would agree that, of course, it lacks that sort of ethereal quality of the studio version, certainly in sort of vocally, but that's because you just can't quite capture that in a live scene. It's a lot, something a lot easier to achieve in a studio setting. Now I'm going to talk about Raving, Drooling, You've Got To Be Crazy pretty much at the same time, as they are basically both demos for songs that appeared on Animals, which was released after this album in 1977. And Raving and Drooling is basically an early version of Sheep, and You've Got to Be Crazy is basically an early version of Dogs. Now, the difference between You've Got to Be Crazy and Dogs is certainly more noticeable than Raving and Drilling and Sheep, because they actually changed the key of the song for Dogs, well, Waters did, and the lyrics are a little different, but yes, the key was completely changed. And now overall, I mean, both of these songs, they're really just live demos of the tracks, and they are interesting. I would say the versions that made it onto Animals are superior, but they had 3 years to improve them since recording this in 1974. And, you know, they're still very interesting demos for all you Animals fans out there. Now, this was quite an interesting one. Wine Glasses, which, as I said, is from the Household Objects project. And the Household Objects project, if you don't know, was basically after the success of Dark Sides of the Moon. I mean, obvious, massive success. I think 1973 that album was released. You know, gone on to be one of the biggest selling albums of all time. They wanted to get away from that sort of success, and they wanted to do a bit of a sort of like a Bruce Springsteen sort of, you know, Nebraska type thing. And this idea was the Household Objects album. They're basically going to make an album by using just household objects, quite simply. And they abandoned the project, but I think 2 songs were recorded for it, but the rest, it was just, they just had bits and pieces. It never really came together. I mean, it's not the best idea, really, is it? To just use household objects like wine glasses and elastic bands, and it's very weird. And I was looking forward to hearing this track. You know, it's something that interested me. I'd never heard anything from the Household Objects project, but really, it's just an elongated version of the intro to Shine On You Crazy Diamond. I mean, you know, before the guitar bit, you hear those sort of ambient sounds, and yeah, that's just wine glasses from the Household Objects project. They basically used that as the intro to Shine On, quite interestingly. And it's basically an extended version for about 2.5 minutes, and it's really not very good. I mean, it's not a good track, it's really dull, really repetitive, but for the beginning of Shine On, it's good, but on its own, it really doesn't stand by itself. It's not a track I can see myself listening to often, if again. Now we get to the alternate version of Have a Cigar, and this is basically the same song, instrumental-wise and all of that, except for the fact that instead of having Roy Harper on vocals, it has Roger Waters and Dave Gilmour on vocals, and they pretty much sing a duet on this version, to be honest. And except for in the chorus, where Roy Harper's voice, I think, is still present. It certainly sounds like him. It doesn't sound like either Waters or Gilmour, so I'd say his voice is still present in the chorus, however I'm not 100% sure. Now, I actually believe this alternate version to be better than the original. Now, it's not like I don't like the original, it's not like I don't like Roy Harper's voice. It's just that I think the way that Waters and Gilmour sing it in tandem, and the harmonies they create, they're really effective, to be honest. And the chorus of Roy Harper singing is still, you know, really good. And yeah, I think it works a bit better. It sounds more naturally Pink Floyd, and yeah, I probably would have been just as happy with that version if that was on the album than the all Roy Harper version. Oh well. The last song on the disc, though, is the title track and an alternate version. This is Wish You Were Here, featuring Stephane Grappelli. And I was very much anticipating this track, as I'd heard quite a lot about it, and it's quite a famous sort of track. And it's not just Wish You Were Here with added violins. To my ears, it seems to be a different recording. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know, it seems like it's a different version just for this. And it has some slight variations, but of course the main ones are, instead of the main guitar solo, there's a violin solo by Stephane. And it's very nice, and it fits the song well. And then the violin, it continues to almost dominate the latter half of the song. And it's a very interesting variation of the song, definitely, but it doesn't surpass the original. I'm pleased they didn't go for this for the original. I mean, I think this was recorded after the original anyway. But, yes, it's definitely the inferior version, but it's still a very interesting thing to own, and I'd say that any Pink Floyd fan really should own this version of the song. It's an essential version to own. I'd say that overall, disc 2 of this Experience Edition. It certainly does not exceed the height of the second disc on either Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall. I mean, the live version, Dark Side, I think it's the definitive version of that album, and the demos of The Wall were one of the best bonus CDs I've ever listened to, if not the best, because the demos were so fascinating, the best demos I've ever heard. There was such a great insight into one of my favourite albums of all time. And yes, I mean, you know, to have the Stephane Wish You Were Here version and Something from the Household Objects project, some demos from Animals, a live version of Shine. This second disc, it really is worth it, especially as it's only about £4 extra you're paying, and it has 67 minutes of additional content, so I think it's definitely worth it. And if you're a fan of this album but can't afford the marbles or the immersion, definitely pick this up. It's about £12.50 on Amazon. It's going to keep its price. I wouldn't say, oh, I'll wait till it's gone down to $7.50 or something. It's not really going to go down until they release another version. I can't see it going down to below a tenner for quite a few years, to be honest. Unless maybe on eBay it might, I don't know. But if you're not entirely sure about Pink Floyd, or not a massive fan of the album, but just, you know, want something in your collection of it, you know, maybe like the odd bit from it, then I really would recommend getting a 94 remaster over the Discovery Edition, because the Discovery Edition is not worth the extra £4 or whatever you have to pay for it. It's such subtle differences, but I'd say that the Experience Edition is definitely the definitive version of this classic album. So this has been the Album Man. Thank you for watching. Comment, rate, subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.